My parents said they'd sell Grandma's house and divide the money equally. Then they let my sister move in and expected me to cover the mortgage. So I walked away. Can you imagine being promised a life-changing inheritance, seeing a glimmer of hope for your future, only to have it ripped away and handed to your spoiled sister? Then, to add insult to injury, having your own parents demand you pay for it? That's not a hypothetical. That's what my family did to me. And what happened next? Well, it shattered everything I thought I knew about love and loyalty. Growing up, I learned pretty quickly that love in my family came with some serious strings attached. My older sister, Vanessa, was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. She got all the encouragement, the celebrations, the unconditional support. Me, I was the backup plan, the responsible one. I got the lectures about responsibility and the constant reminders that I needed to work harder, do better. It was exhausting. Vanessa dropped out of college, not once, but twice. Both times, our parents paid her tuition without batting an eye, welcoming her home with open arms. When it was my turn, and I just needed them to co-sign a tiny student loan for my final semester, Dad looked me dead in the eye and told me I should have been more financially responsible. Seriously? I ended up working 3 jobs that year just to finish my degree. That's how it was. It wasn't just college. Vanessa went through boyfriends like tissues, each relationship ending in some spectacular, dramatic meltdown that required Mom flying across states to comfort her. Meanwhile, I dated Logan for 4 solid years before we got engaged. And Mom's only comment? That I should probably wait because I was still too young. I was 28 years old, for crying out loud. The pattern just kept repeating itself. Vanessa once got a substantial chunk of money for a business venture that collapsed within 6 months. My 30th birthday, I got a card with a crisp $50 bill. When her car broke down, she got a brand new one. I took the bus for 2 years, saving every penny for a used sedan. It felt like I was living in a different universe sometimes. But the house was supposed to be different. This was supposed to be fair. My grandmother, Lorraine, owned this beautiful craftsman-style home in Portland. She bought it back in the 70s, and it was a real gem. 3 bedrooms, original hardwood floors, and a garden she tended until she literally couldn't anymore. Over the decades, property values in that neighborhood had absolutely skyrocketed. By the time Grandma passed away, that house was worth close to $800,000. She left it to my parents jointly. At the funeral, Mom pulled me aside, her voice soft and full of what felt like genuine emotion. She said they were planning to sell the house and split the money equally between Vanessa and me. For once, just for once, I felt seen, acknowledged. Like maybe, just maybe, I mattered as much as my sister did. "We want you both to have something substantial," Mom said, squeezing my hand, tears in her eyes. It's what Mother would have wanted. I thanked her, tears in my own eyes. That money, it would change my life. Logan and I could finally afford a down payment on our own place instead of renting. We could actually start planning the future we'd been putting off for so long. 3 months passed, then 6. I didn't push. I understood these things took time. Estates had to be settled, paperwork processed. I just focused on my job as a medical research coordinator and tried to be patient. Then month 8 rolled around. My phone buzzed, and I saw a new post from Vanessa on social media. Photos from Grandma's house. She'd moved in. The captions were all about new beginnings and family blessings. My stomach dropped. It felt like I'd been punched. I called Mom immediately. "Oh, sweetie, I've been meaning to talk to you about that," she said in that particular tone she always used right before she was about to justify something completely indefensible. Vanessa's been having such a hard time. Her relationship with Trevor ended badly, and she was practically homeless. She needed stability. "She's living there temporarily?" I asked, trying desperately to keep my voice level, to sound calm, but my heart was pounding. "Well," Mom hedged, "we've decided to let her stay permanently." The words hit me like a bucket of ice water. Permanently? What about selling it? What about splitting the money? I practically pleaded. Mom sighed a dramatic, put-upon sound, as if I were the one being difficult. "Vanessa needs this more than you do. You have Logan. You have a good job. Your sister has been struggling. This gives her security. And what do I get? I asked, the unfairness of it all burning in my throat. You get the satisfaction of knowing you helped your sister when she needed it most. I hung up. Before I said something I'd truly regret. An hour later, Logan found me sobbing in our tiny kitchen. When I told him what happened, his jaw tightened. They can't just change the plan like that, he said, his voice quiet but seething. Apparently they can, I whispered. But Logan isn't the type to just let things go. He started researching, asking questions, making calls to the county assessor's office. What he discovered next made everything so much worse. The house wasn't paid off. Grandma had taken out a reverse mortgage years ago to cover medical expenses. When she died, that loan came due. My parents had two options: pay off the roughly $300,000 balance or let the bank foreclose. They decided on a third option. They refinanced the house with a traditional mortgage in their names, paid off the reverse mortgage, and then told Vanessa she could live there permanently. They even promised her they'd transfer the deed once things were settled, but they never actually did. The monthly payment was $2,400. Property taxes added another $800 a month, and they expected me to help pay for it. The text came on a Tuesday morning while I was reviewing lab results at work. Hi, honey. Dad. And I need to talk to you about helping with Grandma's house. The mortgage payment is really stretching us thin. We were thinking you could contribute $800 a month. That seems fair since Vanessa is contributing by living there and maintaining it. Let us know. Love you. I stared at my phone for a full minute, unable to process it. The sheer audacity was breathtaking. Jennifer, my colleague, noticed my expression. Everything okay? My parents want me to pay for a house they just gave to my sister, I muttered, my voice flat. She whistled. Whoa, that's bold. I typed out 17 different responses and deleted every single one. Angry ones, sarcastic ones, ones that laid out exactly how unfair this entire situation was, paragraph by paragraph. Finally, I settled on something simple, something utterly pointed. Ask the owner. I hit send and turned off my phone. The next few days passed in a blur. Logan supported my decision completely, without a second thought. His own family, while not perfect, would never pull something like this. His mom even called to check on me, offering support without even knowing the full story. That kindness, that genuine, unconditional concern, made me cry more than anything else had. On Thursday evening, my phone started ringing. Mom first, then Dad, then Vanessa. I let every single call go to voicemail. The texts piled up. We need to talk about this like adults. You're being unreasonable. Family helps family. Vanessa is very hurt by your attitude. That last one almost made me laugh, a bitter, hollow sound. Vanessa was hurt. Not me. Not the daughter who'd been systematically treated like a second-class family member my entire life. Not me, who'd been promised something and had it ripped away without discussion. Friday morning brought a text from Dad that made my hand shake. Your mother is very upset. This isn't like you, to be so selfish. We raised you better than this. Call us immediately. I showed Logan. He took my phone, and with a firm resolve I hadn't seen in him before, blocked all their numbers. You don't need that toxicity, he said. Later that afternoon, my Aunt Patricia called. She was Mom's sister, and unlike my parents, she'd always been kind to me. Fair. When I answered, I was prepared for her to guilt-trip me on their behalf. Instead, she said, I heard what they did. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. The compassion in her voice broke something loose in my chest. I told her everything. The broken promises, the sudden change, the demand for money. That's not right, Patricia said quietly. Your grandmother would be furious. She told me once she wanted that house to benefit both you girls equally. Your parents are playing favorites, like they always have. I don't know what to do, I admitted, my voice small. You do what you need to do to protect yourself, she advised. You don't owe them anything, especially not money for a house you'll never benefit from. After we hung up, I felt lighter, validated. At least someone in my family saw how wrong this was. Saturday passed quietly. Logan and I went to the farmer's market, made dinner together, watched a movie. Simple, normal couple things that felt so precious because they were uncomplicated. No hidden agendas or manipulation. Sunday morning brought the calls. Multiple calls, actually. My phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. Then another. Then Patricia's number. I answered hers. "They're losing their minds," she said without preamble. "Your mother called me crying, saying you've abandoned them in their time of need." What happened? Nothing happened. I just didn't answer their calls. Well, apparently, that's the same as abandonment. They tried to get me to call you on their behalf. I told them I wasn't getting involved beyond telling you they were trying to reach you. Whatever you decide, I support you. An hour later, Logan checked his phone and frowned. Your sister posted something. He showed me the screen. Vanessa had written a long, rambling post about family betrayal and jealous siblings who couldn't be happy for other success. She didn't mention me by name, but several mutual acquaintances had commented, asking if everything was okay. She's unbelievable, Logan muttered. I felt oddly calm. Let her spin whatever narrative she wanted. The people who mattered knew the truth. Monday brought a voicemail from Dad. His voice was different, strained. The bombast was gone. We need you to call us back. It's important. There's been a development with the house, and we need to discuss options, please. I deleted it. Patricia texted me Tuesday afternoon. Did they tell you about the appraisal? What appraisal? Call me. I stepped away from my desk at work and called her back. Your parents had the house appraised for insurance purposes, Patricia explained. It came back at $950,000. Apparently, Vanessa saw the paperwork and started talking about taking out a home equity line of credit. Your parents are panicking because they're still on the mortgage, and they know if she defaults, they're responsible. A bitter laugh escaped me. So they're realizing their plan wasn't so great after all. Your father also let slip that they've been covering the full mortgage themselves. Vanessa hasn't contributed a dime. She told them she would pay utilities, and that counted as her contribution. Patricia paused, letting that sink in. $2,400 plus property taxes, and she thinks paying the electric bill is her share. Your mother is finally seeing what everyone else has seen for years. Vanessa takes advantage. We talked for another 10 minutes before I had to get back to work. The information sat in my chest like a stone. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated. Another part just felt sad that it had come to this. Wednesday evening, Logan came home from work looking thoughtful. I've been thinking about something, he began. Have your parents actually transferred the deed to Vanessa? Or is it still in their names? I don't know. Why? Because if they still legally own it, they could sell it out from under her. And if they're as desperate as your aunt says, they might be considering it. He pulled up the county property records online. Sure enough, the house was still titled in my parents' names. Vanessa was just living there. They gave her a house they don't actually own. Logan said, slowly scrolling. Or rather, the bank owns most of it, and they're responsible for the payments. Understanding dawned. They promised her ownership, but never transferred the title. Or, at least, let her believe something that wasn't technically true. The irony was almost poetic. My parents had created a situation where nobody was happy. They were stuck with a mortgage they couldn't afford, paying for a house they didn't live in. Vanessa believed she owned a property she had no legal claim to, and I was the villain for refusing to fund their bad decision. Thursday brought another unknown number to my phone. This time, I answered just to see who it was. Finally, Mom's voice came through. I've been trying to reach you for days. I've been busy, I said, my voice flat. Too busy for your own mother? We need to talk about the house situation. It's become untenable. I waited silently, listening to her breathe. Your father and I can't keep up with the payments alone. We're dipping into our retirement funds. We need you to contribute at least $500 a month. That's more than fair. Is Vanessa contributing? I asked, my voice dangerously calm. A pause. A long, telling pause. She's contributing in other ways. She's going through a hard time. She's looking for work. Mom, I'm not paying for a house I have no ownership in and no benefit from. You made your choice. But we're your parents, she cried. Yes, and you chose to give everything to Vanessa without even discussing it with me first. You changed the plan completely. You promised her something you couldn't afford, and now you expect me to fix it. That's not my responsibility. How can you be so cold after everything we've done for you? Her voice cracked. The laugh that came out of me was sharp, incredulous. Everything you've done for me? Name one time you put me first. One time you chose me over Vanessa. Silence on the other end. A heavy, damning silence. That's what I thought, I said, my voice shaking with a mixture of anger and a deep, profound sadness. I'm done, Mom. Done being the responsible one who gets nothing. Done being the backup plan. Done funding Vanessa's life while she contributes nothing. If you don't help us, we'll lose the house. Mom's voice broke completely. Then you'll lose the house, I said, the words feeling like pure steel as they left my lips. Maybe you should ask the owner to help. I hung up and immediately blocked that number, too. Logan held me while I cried that night. Not because I felt guilty, but because I was grieving. Grieving the relationship with my parents I'd always wanted but never truly had. Grieving the fantasy that they might someday see me as equal to my sister. Friday. Patricia called again. Your father showed up at my house this morning, she said, sounding exasperated. What did he want? He wanted me to convince you to help them. Said you were being cruel and vindictive. I told him he created this mess, and he could find a way out of it himself. He left angry. I'm sorry he dragged you into this. Don't be. Someone needed to tell him the truth. He's been enabling Vanessa her entire life, and your mother just goes along with it because it's easier than standing up to either of them. They made their bed. Over the weekend, 3 more unknown numbers called. I didn't answer any of them. Logan and I drove to the coast, walked along the beach, ate fresh seafood, and for those 2 precious days, pretended my family drama didn't exist. It was peaceful in a way I hadn't experienced in months. Monday brought an email from Vanessa. It was long, rambling, and full of accusations. I was jealous, petty, unable to be happy for her, punishing her for our parents' decisions. She called me cold-hearted and said she never wanted to speak to me again. I forwarded it to Patricia without comment. She replied within minutes. Wow. She really doesn't see her part in any of this, does she? Never has. Work kept me distracted during the day. I was leading a research study on autoimmune disorders, and we were in a critical phase of data collection. My team depended on me to stay focused and professional. Somehow, compartmentalizing my family issues became easier. They were a problem I couldn't solve, so I stopped trying. 2 weeks after my last conversation with Mom, Patricia called with news. They listed the house. My heart stuttered. What? Your parents put it on the market. Listed it Friday. Vanessa found out yesterday when a realtor showed up with potential buyers. Patricia paused for dramatic effect. Apparently, she lost her mind. Called your mother screaming. And my parents told her what? That they had no choice because they can't afford it, and I refused to help. Of course they did. So they're blaming you. Of course they are. Vanessa posted about it naturally. Another vague rant about family betrayal and being made homeless by selfish relatives. Let me guess. She still hasn't mentioned that she never actually owned it. Not a word. She's telling everyone they're stealing her inheritance. The audacity continued to amaze me. How are Mom and Dad handling it? According to your mother, they're doing what they have to do. She called me crying yesterday, saying this was all your fault for not being a team player. Patricia sighed. I told her the team was rigged from the start and hung up. Patricia, you don't have to alienate yourself from them because of me. Honey, I've been watching them treat you like a spare child for 32 years. I'm done pretending it's okay. Your grandmother would be ashamed of them. After we hung up, I sat with the information. The house would sell quickly in that market. My parents would walk away with probably $500,000 after paying off the mortgage and closing costs. Money they desperately needed for retirement. Would they split it with me? Unlikely. They'd probably give it all to Vanessa to assuage their guilt over making her homeless. The cycle would continue, but that wasn't my problem anymore. Logan found me lost in thought when he got home. What's going on in that head? I told him about the house listing. Good, he said firmly. They're finally dealing with their mistake. How does that make you feel? Relieved, actually. At least it's ending. You know, they're probably not going to give you any of the proceeds, he warned gently. I know. And you're okay with that? I considered the question carefully. I'm okay with being free of them. The money would be nice, but the peace I've had these last few weeks is worth so much more. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done. He kissed my forehead. I'm proud of you. The house sold in 9 days. Patricia kept me updated despite my parents' radio silence. The buyers paid asking price, all cash, quick close. My parents cleared the remaining mortgage balance of around $280,000 and had enough left over to replenish their retirement accounts. Vanessa moved back in with them, temporarily. According to Patricia's sources, it was going poorly. She's already complaining that their house is too small and the neighborhood isn't nice enough, Patricia reported. Your mother is at her wit's end, but she won't say anything because she feels guilty. Some people never learn. Your father tried to call me last week, Patricia continued. Wanted to know if I'd heard from you. I told him no and suggested if he wanted to talk to you, he should try apologizing first. He said he had nothing to apologize for. That stung, but not as much as it would have a month ago. I'd accepted that my parents would never acknowledge their role in this disaster. They'd rewritten the narrative in their heads where they were the victims, and I was the ungrateful daughter. 3 months later, life had settled into a new normal. Logan and I found a beautiful condo within our budget and put in an offer. We got married in a small, intimate ceremony with just our friends and his family. Patricia came and sat on my side of the aisle, the only blood relative present. My parents didn't even know about the wedding until Patricia mentioned it in conversation with Mom weeks later. According to Patricia, Mom cried and said I was punishing them by excluding them from major life events. I told her she excluded herself, Patricia said when she relayed the story. She didn't have much to say to that. Nearly a year after the house sold, an envelope arrived at my apartment. Inside was a check for $50,000 and a note in my father's familiar, cramped handwriting. This is your share from the house sale. We kept the rest for retirement and to help Vanessa get back on her feet. We hope this shows we were always planning to be fair. I stared at the check for a long time. $50,000. Out of the roughly $600,000 they'd netted from the sale after paying off the mortgage and closing costs, that was less than 10%. Vanessa got the rest, either as a lump sum or in parcels to help her get back on her feet, which I knew would never happen because Vanessa was simply incapable of standing on her own. Logan found me holding the check. What are you going to do? Cash it, I said, and then we're buying new furniture for the condo. No guilt. None, I replied, the word firm. They gave me less than 10% and think they're being generous. It tells me everything I need to know about how they value me. I deposited the check the next day. Used half for a down payment on a car since my sedan was finally dying. Put the rest in savings. Sent my parents a brief text. Received the check. Thank you. No other acknowledgement. No acceptance of their narrative that this proved their fairness. The text back came within minutes. We'd love to see you and Logan sometime, maybe dinner next week. I showed Logan the message. He shook his head. They think money fixes everything. They think $50,000 erases 37 years of being second best. Are you going to respond? I thought about it for a long moment. Part of me wanted to see them, wanted to look them in the eye and tell them exactly how their choices had affected me. But what would that accomplish? They'd either get defensive or cry, and I'd leave feeling worse than before. No, I decided. If I respond, they'll take it as an opening. They'll think we're on the path to reconciliation, and we're not. This changes nothing. Logan squeezed my hand. Then don't respond. I didn't. The follow-up texts came over the next few days. Mom saying she missed me. Dad asking if I was still upset about that whole house situation. Vanessa even sent a message saying she heard I got money and maybe I could loan her some since she was having a tough month. That last one actually made me laugh out loud. Even now, even after everything, Vanessa thought she could just ask me for money and I'd hand it over. The entitlement was staggering. I blocked Vanessa's number too. Let her figure out her own finances for once in her life. Jennifer at work noticed I seemed lighter somehow. "Whatever was weighing on you seems better," she observed during lunch one day. "I cut off contact with my family," I told her. "Well, most of them." That takes courage. It feels like I can finally breathe. Patricia called a week later, laughing. "Your mother is beside herself that you didn't call to thank them profusely. She expected gratitude and tears of joy. Did she really think $50,000 fixed everything? She thought it proved they'd always intended to share the proceeds. Never mind that Vanessa got over 10 times what you did." A year and a half later, Patricia reported that Vanessa had gone through all her money. She bought a new car, taken an expensive vacation, and invested in another business venture that immediately failed. She was back to living with my parents and asking them for money they no longer had to give. "Your mother actually said to me, 'I don't know where we went wrong with Vanessa,'" Patricia said, incredulous. "I told her they went wrong by never letting her face consequences. She got mad at me." Are they still expecting her to eventually launch? I think they're starting to realize she never will. Your father looks exhausted every time I see him. Vanessa treats their house like a hotel. Doesn't clean, doesn't cook, barely contributes to groceries. The satisfaction I felt hearing this wasn't pretty, but it was real. Every choice has consequences, and my parents were finally living with theirs. They'd sacrificed their retirement, their peace, and their relationship with me to enable Vanessa. Now, they had exactly what they'd chosen, an adult daughter who would never be independent, draining them emotionally and financially. Meanwhile, Logan surprised me with a weekend trip to wine country for my 34th birthday. We stayed in a charming bed and breakfast, toured vineyards, ate incredible food. No drama, no family obligations, just two people who genuinely enjoyed each other's company. On the drive home, Logan brought up something I'd been avoiding. "Have you thought about what happens when your parents actually need help? When they're too old to take care of themselves?" "That's what Vanessa is for," I said, keeping my eyes on the road. "You know she won't step up." "That's not my problem. They made their choice about who deserved their resources and support. They can't expect me to be there for them when they were never there for me." Logan was quiet for a moment. "I just want to make sure you've thought it through, so there are no surprises later." "I have. Patricia will probably handle things when the time comes because she's kind like that. But me? I've given them enough of my life already." I felt a twinge of something. Not quite sympathy, but a recognition that this was the natural outcome of their choices. They created a dependent adult child who would drain them financially and emotionally for the rest of their lives. Meanwhile, Logan and I thrived. We both got promotions at work, started seriously discussing having children, took a trip to Ireland we'd been dreaming about for years, and built a life based on mutual respect and actual partnership. My phone rang occasionally from unknown numbers. I never answered. The voicemails were always the same. Mom or Dad or Vanessa wanting something: money, time, attention, validation. I deleted them without listening all the way through. Patricia remained my only connection to that part of my family. She'd essentially chosen sides, and while I felt guilty about that initially, she assured me she'd been looking for an excuse to distance herself from my parents for years. "They're exhausting," she told me over coffee one afternoon. "Everything is drama with them. Your mother calls me weekly to complain about Vanessa, but if I suggest Vanessa needs to move out and support herself, she gets defensive. They want sympathy but no solutions." "Do they ever ask about me?" Patricia hesitated. "Sometimes your mother wonders if you'll come around eventually. Your father says you're stubborn and holding a grudge. Vanessa claims you were always jealous of her. None of them think they did anything wrong. Not even a little bit." Nearly 3 years after I'd sent that Ask the Owner text, I had my daughter. Ruby came into the world healthy and perfect. And holding her made me understand, on a visceral level, how my parents had failed me. I couldn't imagine loving any future child more than I loved her. I couldn't fathom creating a hierarchy of worth among my children. Patricia came to meet Ruby in the hospital. She brought flowers and a beautiful handmade blanket. She cried, holding my daughter, telling her she was loved and wanted. "Your parents don't know," she asked gently. "No. Are you going to tell them?" I looked at Ruby's tiny, perfect face. "Maybe someday, but not now. I don't want their conditional love anywhere near her." Patricia nodded, understanding. "You're protecting her. That's what good mothers do." Logan's parents were incredible grandparents. They visited frequently, babysat when we needed them, showered Ruby with age-appropriate gifts and genuine affection. This was what family was supposed to look like. What I deserved all along but never received. On Ruby's first birthday, a package arrived with no return address. Inside was a card addressed to our granddaughter and a savings bond for $100. The card was signed by my parents and included a note saying they hoped we could reconcile for Ruby's sake. I threw it away. All of it. Logan raised an eyebrow. "Not even going to cash the bond?" "It's a down payment on control. They think that $100 buys them access to my daughter. It doesn't. What if they show up here?" "They won't. That would require effort and humility, neither of which they have." I was right. They didn't show up, didn't call. The package was the extent of their outreach, a token gesture that required minimal effort and let them tell people they tried. Patricia mentioned that Vanessa was dating someone new, someone with money apparently. My parents were thrilled already, planning a future where this man would solve all Vanessa's problems by marrying her and supporting her. "They never learn," Patricia sighed. "This guy is going to figure out who she is and run. They always do." 6 months later, Patricia's prediction came true. The relationship ended. Vanessa moved back in with my parents for the third time. She was 36 years old. My parents, now in their late 60s, were trapped. Their retirement was comfortable, but not luxurious, especially with an adult child draining their resources. "They've aged noticeably," Patricia said. "The stress shows." Part of me felt vindicated. They'd chosen this life by enabling Vanessa for decades. But another part, the part that was now a mother myself, just felt sad. Sad that they'd wasted so much time and money and emotional energy on the wrong priorities. Sad that they'd never know Ruby. Sad that we'd never have the relationship I'd wanted. But I didn't reach out. Didn't, because ultimately they'd shown me exactly how much I mattered to them. And it wasn't enough to change. Ruby turned 2, then 3. She was bright and funny and kind. Logan and I had discussions about having another child, weighing our options. Life was good, peaceful, drama-free. Patricia called one evening with news. "Your mother had a health scare. Nothing life-threatening, but it shook them both up. She's been talking about regrets." "About me?" "What about me?" "She wishes things were different. Hopes you'd come back. But she still won't admit they did anything wrong. She frames it as a misunderstanding that got out of hand." "A misunderstanding. Your father is more stubborn. He says, 'You made your choice, and you'll have to live with it.'" The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd made my choice, but so had they. Every day they chose Vanessa over me. They were making a choice. They just didn't want to accept the consequences. I didn't call them. Didn't send a card. If Mom wanted reconciliation badly enough, she knew where I lived. Years passed. Ruby started kindergarten. We bought a house with a yard and a swing set. Logan got another promotion. I published 2 papers in respected medical journals. We took vacations, hosted dinner parties, built friendships with other young families in our neighborhood. My parents became abstract figures, people I used to know. Patricia provided occasional updates. Vanessa was still living with them, still unemployed, still causing problems. My parents' health was declining. They talked about me sometimes, wondered about their granddaughter, but never picked up the phone. The letter came on a Tuesday. Patricia's familiar handwriting on the envelope. Inside was a note. "Your father had a stroke. He's stable, but the prognosis isn't great. Your mother is asking for you. I told her I'd pass along the information, but couldn't make you come. Whatever you decide, I support you. Love, Patricia. I sat at the kitchen table holding the letter for a long time. Ruby was at school. The house was quiet. I could go see him, could show up at the hospital and be the bigger person, could give my mother the comfort of having both her daughters there. But what would that accomplish? A deathbed reconciliation that changed nothing. Subjecting myself to Vanessa's presence and probable hostility. Opening the door for my parents to meet Ruby and immediately start making demands about their role in her life. I called Patricia instead. I'm not going, I told her. Okay, she said simply. Do you want me to tell them anything? Tell them I hope Dad recovers. That's all. Your mother will be devastated. She's had years to reach out, years to apologize. This doesn't change anything. Patricia sighed. You're right. I just hate seeing her in pain. I hate that she's in pain, too. But I can't sacrifice my peace to make her feel better. That's what she's always expected, and I'm done giving it. Dad survived the stroke, but was left partially paralyzed. He came home from the hospital requiring significant care. Vanessa, according to Patricia, was useless. She complained about the medical equipment cluttering the house and spent most of her time in her room. Mom, now 71, became Dad's primary caregiver while also managing the household and dealing with Vanessa's continued dependence. Patricia helped when she could, but she had her own life and health issues. She's burning out, Patricia told me during one of our monthly calls. She keeps saying she wishes you were here to help. I told her she burned that bridge herself. How'd she react? Cried. Said she'd given Vanessa the house because she thought you were more stable and didn't need help. That she'd made a mistake but didn't know how to fix it. The mistake wasn't giving Vanessa the house, I corrected. The mistake was every choice they made before that. Every time they chose her over me. Every time they let her slide while holding me to impossible standards. I told her the same thing, Patricia said. She doesn't want to hear it. Ruby was 7 when my father died. Patricia called to tell me. I felt a complicated mix of grief and relief. Grief for the father I'd wanted but never had. Relief that his suffering was over. Relief that I'd never have to make the choice of whether to reconcile. I didn't attend the funeral. Sent flowers with a card that said simply, condolences. Patricia said Mom was hoping I'd come. That she'd scanned every face at the service looking for mine. Vanessa gave a eulogy about being Daddy's girl. About how close they'd been. About how much he'd sacrificed for his daughters. Patricia said it was nauseating. She made it all about herself. Patricia reported. Your mother just sat there crying. Several people came up to me afterward asking where you were. I said you were unable to attend and left it at that. The estate was simple. Dad had a life insurance policy that paid out $200,000. Mom got half. Vanessa got half. I got nothing. Not even a mention in the will. I'd expected nothing different, but it still stung. Some small part of me had hoped that maybe in death he'd acknowledge I existed, that I was his daughter too. But even then, Vanessa came first. Mom's health deteriorated rapidly after Dad died. The stress of caregiving, the grief, the burden of Vanessa all took its toll. She had a series of small strokes that left her confused and frail. Patricia called me several times during this period, keeping me updated, never pressuring me to visit, but making sure I knew what was happening. She talks about you sometimes, Patricia said. Asks if you've called. I tell her no. She cries. Does she understand why I haven't? I don't think so. I think in her mind enough time has passed that you should be over it. But you don't get over being treated as less than for your entire life. You don't get over being promised something and having it ripped away. You don't get over being expected to fund your sister's lifestyle while receiving nothing in return. Vanessa spent her inheritance from Dad's life insurance within a year of getting it. Patricia said she bought another car, went on multiple trips, invested in yet another failed business venture. She went through $100,000 like it was nothing. When it was gone, she went back to asking Mom for money. Money Mom didn't have. Patricia stepped in and explained the financial situation. Mom's savings were depleted. Social Security barely covered her basic needs. There was nothing left to give. Vanessa moved out in a rage, claiming everyone had turned against her. She found an apartment she couldn't afford and got a part-time job that lasted 3 weeks. The cycle continued, but now without my parents' safety net. Mom lived alone in the house for 2 years before her health declined to the point where she needed assisted living. Patricia handled all the arrangements because Vanessa was unreachable and I was still maintaining my distance. Patricia sold Mom's house to cover the assisted living costs. She keeps asking for you, Patricia told me after getting Mom settled. Says she needs to see you to explain. Explain what? How she chose Vanessa over me my whole life. How she expected me to fund a house I'd never benefit from. How she gave away my inheritance without discussion. I don't need explanations. She's dying. The words hung in the air between us. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of them. I know, I said finally. And I'm sorry she's dying. But showing up now doesn't undo the past. It just makes me the daughter who came back when it was convenient. And that's not who I am. Patricia was quiet for a moment. You know I love you, right? And I support your decision. But I also want to make sure you won't regret this later. I might have regrets. I admit it. But I'd have more regrets if I went back and subjected myself and my family to their toxicity one more time. Ruby is 10 now. She's old enough to remember meeting them. Old enough to ask questions. I won't expose her to people who would inevitably treat her the same way they treated me. That's fair, Patricia said. More than fair, actually. You're protecting your child. That's what parents should do. Mom lasted another 8 months in assisted living. Vanessa visited twice. Patricia went weekly. The staff said Mom often seemed confused about which daughter was which, calling Patricia by my name and asking when Vanessa would bring the baby. When Patricia called to tell me Mom had passed, I was surprisingly calm. How do you feel? Patricia asked gently, like a chapter of my life is finally closed. Is that terrible? It's honest. There's no right way to grieve a complicated relationship. I didn't attend this funeral either. Vanessa could have her moment, could play the grieving daughter without my presence complicating the narrative. Patricia told me later that Vanessa's eulogy painted Mom as a saint who'd sacrificed everything for her children. Several people who knew the real story rolled their eyes, Patricia reported. One of Mom's friends approached Patricia afterward and said, "Where's the other daughter?" The responsible one, living her life, Patricia had replied. Mom's estate was minimal. The assisted living facility had consumed most of her remaining assets. There was about $15,000 left after final expenses, which Patricia said went to Vanessa by default since I hadn't contested anything and wasn't listed in any will. I didn't care about the $15,000. What could that money buy me? Except more proof that I'd never mattered to them the way Vanessa did. Patricia and I met for coffee a month after Mom's funeral. She looked tired but relieved. "It's finally over," she said. "The whole sad saga." "How's Vanessa doing?" Patricia snorted. "She's already asking me for loans." I told her no. She said I was abandoning her, just like you did. We didn't abandon her. We stopped enabling her. I know that. You know that. Oh, she'll never know that. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, sipping our coffee. Two women who'd survived a toxic family system by setting boundaries and walking away. "Do you have any regrets?" Patricia asked, her voice soft. I thought about it carefully. I regret that my parents never loved me the way they loved Vanessa. I regret that they made choices that destroyed our relationship. But I don't regret protecting myself and my family. I don't regret saying no. Good, Patricia said firmly. Because you did the right thing. You broke a cycle. Ruby will grow up knowing her worth doesn't depend on being the favorite or accepting crumbs. She was right. Ruby would grow up in a home where love wasn't conditional, where resources weren't distributed based on who needed rescuing, where responsibility and independence were valued. She'd never know what it felt like to be second best in her own family. That was worth everything I'd lost. Logan and I took Ruby to the zoo that weekend. She was fascinated by the elephants, laughing at their trunks and the way they sprayed water. She held both our hands, secure in the knowledge that she was loved and wanted and enough, exactly as she was. "Mommy, why are we happy?" she asked suddenly, with the profound randomness of a child. "Because we have each other," I told her, "and that's all we need." It was the truest thing I'd ever said. Years from now, Ruby might ask about my parents, about why she never met her grandmother and grandfather. I'd tell her the truth in age-appropriate ways, that sometimes families don't treat everyone fairly, and sometimes the healthiest choice is to step away. But I'd also tell her that she came from strength, that her mother learned to value herself enough to demand better. That love without respect isn't really love at all. The cycle ended with me. Whatever mistakes I made as a parent, and I'd make plenty, Ruby would never doubt that she mattered, that she was enough, that she deserved everything good this world had to offer. My parents had taught me what not to do. In their failure, they'd given me a blueprint for breaking generational patterns. And I took that lesson and built something beautiful. So I've shared my story. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to draw a hard line with family to protect yourself or your peace? Or maybe you've been the one to walk away from a toxic situation. What was your breaking point? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know.